All right. What's up, everybody? We're fixing to go deep. It's quite a build today. I don't know how long it's going to take. Might be the longest one ever. There's so much to say. I try to fit it all onto one page of notes so that I don't get carried away, but we're in it right now. So I better just get started. You remember yesterday, if you tuned in, how we had the resoluteness card, this old crusty gentleman, and our determination was being tested up against a wall. Well, that's a tough thing to feel like we're not getting anywhere, and it can hurt our feelings. It can make us feel like we're low on energy because of the, you know, immovable object hitting an unstoppable force. So we got to see where it's flowing from there, right? Resoluteness changes into the well, and the well is about seeking truth, wisdom, insight, intuitive inner knowing. It's really the source. It's about connecting to source, which is what we're all here to do, right? So let's get into this. The changing lines are pretty relevant here. The bottom line has changed, and the fourth line has changed. The changing lines are shown on the bottom left here. These are the hexagrams of the I Ching. These patterns are how you determine what the energy actually means when you're looking at the I Ching. And the bottom line changing from resoluteness is talking about how anytime the bottom line changes, it represents shifting foundations. And it's going from a resolute, stiff, unchanging foundation to an open one. So what that means is it's really probably a good idea to cut back right now rather than take on further challenges or projects. You want to make sure you're not overestimating yourself or underestimating what's required for things that you're involved with, and recognize that by pulling back into yourself, you're not going to lose anything. You're going to find everything, and you will know when the time to re-engage things that need to pause will be. So the fourth line changing, this is, in my opinion, is the communication line, and it's also going from a solid line to an open line, meaning it's not a good idea to get stubborn about pushing forward with your opinions during any kind of stalemate that might still be lingering from the resoluteness energy yesterday. Because I don't think that's necessarily going away just because we're moving into a new card. Sometimes, like, that's why these build on each other from day to day. It's not like the resoluteness situation goes away, but now we're looking at the next step of solutions, which is get into the well. So what I mean about forcing your opinion is you're likely to lose the support that you have the harder you try to force things with your present situation. So let go of your attachment to a particular outcome or an approach, a style of it, going after it, and open up to the suggestions of the people who have earned your trust. There is at least somebody out there that's earned your trust right now, and maybe their suggestions are good, or at the very least, just open up and communicate what is hard for you right now with them in a place where it's a safe receptacle. Not like venting, but just like, expressing. It's all about communications right now. There's a lot there on communications. We're going to see how that theme continues to permeate everything as we go. But the well, let's look at the elements on the well. It's the abyss or the abysmal, which is the deep, deep waters, the subconscious, supported by the gentle wind, breath energy. Okay, so the abyss represents obstructions and obstacles in your path. And the gentle, the wind element, is the penetrating force. And it's like when the abyss is on top, it means that what it's about right now is the obstacle. What it's about is the obstruction. So we're looking at the same thing that resoluteness had us standing strong against, but now we're like taking a step back or taking a step into ourselves in order to find the solutions and change our vibe. Because whenever we hit that brick wall and we got to stand firm, it is eventually going to make us feel different. Like, man, things were flowing. I felt so good, but now it's like, am I stuck? So we need to go within and we need to reconnect to that source energy to feel the flow come back. And we have to go and hook the flow back up. It's like spiritual technician time. All right. So the wind is subtle. right? It's the subtle element, but it finds its way through every crack and eventually erodes even the stones over time. And this is the power of your breath. So right now, I want to give you some do's and don'ts for how to access the well. We're going to go far on the well. There's so much to say about it. It's one of the wildest cards, but do's would be shamanic journeying, like listening to drum and rattle tracks while you lay down and go on a vision quest. If that's a new phrase for you, shamanic journey work, maybe it's something to look into. It's helped me in my life at times, very helpful for getting insight and guidance, connecting with guides. If you've never talked to your guides or met them, this is a way to do it. Find out who your team is. So extra time in regular meditation would be good. Quiet time with the breath in general, breath work for sure. We're going to talk about breath work more as we go. Divination's good right now. Asking yourself questions and waiting to hear the answer in your mind or through signs in the external world. Or if prayer is your jam, get into some prayer, or all of the above would be great. Now, on the things not to do right now, do not try to change the world. Do not try to force things that are not in flow. Do not engage in conflicts. And anything that might fit any of those three descriptors, just pull back on that. Do not bang your head against a wall. All right. That's self-harm. For example, so a good example of why we really need to get clear for, well, let me back up. Okay, I'm going to talk about this a little further on. So, okay, yesterday was 10-4. 10-4, buddy. 10-4 over. You maybe heard that, like with radio operators, they say 10-4 whenever they're confirming a communication went through properly. Yesterday was 10-4. And did you notice the communications breakdown online? It happened, right? It totally happened on 10-4. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it's a sign. I think it's a spell from some sorcerers. I think that there's some mad interference being thrown at us because of how much we're building right now. But we'll talk about that too. Really what it is there are unhealed parts of self that want to keep their power over the rest of self. And when we see the comms disintegrating in the external world, like we can't get a message through, Mercury retrograde, it's a sign that we should open up to commune with our innermost self. And when we already hear the signal of ourself, and it's the doubt and fear and like hard emotional stuff that's not getting expressed properly. That's the noise that makes it unclear. So the cure is to admit the truth to ourselves and act accordingly and express it where or to whom it wants to go. That can be tough, but we need to get clear before we dive into the well. There's so much we need to really do that. Okay. So like the well is all about these deep dives into our intuitive knowing. And if we want to find the pearl of great price at the bottom of our unconscious or subconscious, we have to get light first. We have to get as light as we can. And we need to do that by, you got to take off all your clothes before you jump in the water, or it's just going to get in your way. And what that means is before we go on our journeys, we really need to get neutral, drop our stories, our expectations, our personas, our masks, our fears, our doubts. All of this must go if we want to go all the way. And that means like we got to zero it out. And that means we've got to probably take some extra time in the preliminary phase of grounding and clearing and building up our energy before we dive in to any of those practices that I just mentioned on the do list, like shamanic journeying. Otherwise, you're not going to make it very far below the surface level of things. And the situations that feel like obstacles right now are not going to benefit from you healing your perspective. In fact, they're just going to keep you tethered or anchored to the shore where you're sore. The place where you're sore. We need to put some balm on that first before we go in. So we need to go find that healed perspective from down deep. We really do. But for me, here's an example. I tried twice since yesterday to do some long form shamanic journey meditations, and neither time I got very far into the astral because my energy going into it was still not clear of emotional difficulties I've been feeling since the 10-4 communications breakdown yesterday. But now I get the message. Thanks, divination. So that can be handy. Divination might even be, you might even be able to go in on some divination without getting super clear first. I mean, that's what I'm doing here for you and with us as a group, right? So I'm super serious about this. You need to take some time to hear yourself out, but you need to do it right, which means you got to get the energy right. We'll talk more about that when we get to Dolphin, but the metaphor here is that if you're trying to draw water from a well and you're doing it half-assed, it's like using a bucket that's all cracked up and there's holes in it. You're totally wasting your time because the waters of life that you're trying to gather are just going to go spilling right through the fractures. So you got to seal up your energetic vessel, your energy body, and you got to stop as many of the light leaks as you can. Perfect your vessel with the gentle attention using breath and to the using the energetic repairs that you know how to do. Like whatever your toolkit is, get in there and don't be shy about it. Spend the time. It's not, you're not spending time, you're gaining self, you're gaining wholeness and clarity. And so when you feel balanced and neutral and no longer worried about the currently troubling situations, or at least a lot less worried, ideally you could get fully neutral. I know that's not necessarily like the easiest thing, but the harder you go with the breath work, the more close to neutral you'll get. We'll talk about that too, what that really means with Dolphin. But at the point where you do reach the neutrality, you have found the diving board to enter yourself through, and you can take the jump. And this is what it means. Also, this is part of what it means when in the past I said all the time, like, don't make a decision on the high or low of a wave. This definitely applies to that too. But don't make like a deep dive while you're all caught up in the high or a low either. So more about the well. The well represents uncertainty. And to a large degree, no matter how much inner knowing you ever draw up from within yourself, you know, the more oriented towards your true self you become, the more consistently you will be facing the unknown and the uncertain in your external path. So get used to that. This is actually not a bad thing. It's about opening up to more potential. Like, this is a message I always need to hear and remind myself about. That trying to hurry things up in my quest for answers is just going to accelerate me into a dead end. Like, woo! So it's better to hit the wall at a controlled speed, or maybe even be able to hit the brakes and stop before the wall rather than full thruster blast right into it, because, you know, then you might blow up on impact. The wrong turns in this labyrinth of life you cannot avoid, but if you're letting your heart guide you by getting real with your feelings and expressing them, you will circle back around from every single cul-de-sac with more of the map of yourself than you started with. We find out what's true and who we are by eliminating what we're not. That's the apophatic method of finding truth. It's a real thing. So sometimes, though, on the path, okay, so I want to talk about like other aspects of guidance to the well here. This is important because I think this is in the energy right now too for all of us. You know, maybe we've been on our path trying to seek truth. We didn't even know exactly what we were looking for, of course, because truth is like that. You don't know it till you know it. And maybe we've met somebody, maybe there's more than one person, but there's an individual in our life who seems so wise and so perceptive that they can just penetrate our armor with their awareness and touch us all the way to the innermost of our core. And they find the well for us when we didn't even know where it was. When we feel the compassion and the loving gaze of such people, and it's so empowering, we begin to see ourselves the way they see us, it definitely can change the course of our lives. It's like, have you ever felt like you were talking to somebody that was you looking into a mirror, but instead of seeing who you thought you were at that time, you started to see the face of your highest potential and the expression of all your infinite possibilities? This is totally an experience that feels like uprooting and it can be even scarier, like we can hesitate because the possibilities we start to see in ourselves, thanks to this other person lifting us up through their loving energy and through their openness to our possibilities, that infinite potential is so vast. It's like, which way do we go? Like, what's going on? I'm lost in this spider web. Well, the thing is, you need to expand in every direction at once. So don't worry about like trying to go in a linear path. And also realize that even if this healing helper, whether they just show up and just like lightning bolt us, or they stick around and it seems like they never run out of the grace and we could never drink all of their energy dry. We still got to take the final steps into self-individuation by ourselves. And honestly, if we don't, and we still just keep trying to only drink from them, they'll leave. If they're like enlightened, they'll know that that means I got to pull back. I can't just let you, drain me only. Like I've got lots to share and I want to build you up, but eventually you got to make this jump for yourself, right? So we have to take the final steps into individuation, selfhood by ourself. That makes sense, right? And we dive into our own well alone. There's no one can go with you into the well other than in your heart. And how that works is that alone is all one. I'll say it again and again in case you didn't hear me. Alone is all one. And this is where you're headed when you go to source, when you dive deep into this well. You go in alone and you come to being all one. That's what you find. Self-realization can only come from yourself, never from somebody else, even though they can take you to the gate. And luckily they will. There are people that will take you to the gate. You got to open the door and step through it. Nobody has the keys to you but you. And also realize that this is not a one and done thing. Once you get it and you know where the well is and you know how to access the well, you need to be aware that returning here regularly is a thing. And you can forget where you left it. If you don't go often enough, you might lose the map. So these are the waters of life for your spirit, this deep dive, this balancing, clearing, neutralizing the hard stuff, and then going all the way into self with whatever version of journeying works best for you. I really feel like shamanic journeying is the thing that maybe you want to look into if it's not a thing you do. I would say like maybe plant medicine helpers could be good at this time, but don't go into those without clearing and balancing yourself super well first too. Like set and setting big time. Do not take it lightly. You got a lot of juice right now. And if you amplify distortion with that type of plant medicine energy, good luck. It's going to be a ride. I mean, you'll be fine, but you don't want to shake things up so much that it falls apart, right? So keep going into these waters of life for your spirit. This inner wellspring is totally eternal. It literally is eternity. So don't forget how you got there or how you got here to this chat right now. Do your thing. All right. That was so much about the well. I'm going to just look at the time in the comments. Holy smokes. Yeah, we are almost the full length of what a normal read would be just on the I Ching. So that's what it is. That's what it is. We'll keep going. All right. We got 7 of discs. The discs return. It's a thing right now. And this is a reversal, but hey, the reversal is not always a bad thing. This is, in my opinion, is one of those reversals that's actually a good reversal. Because look at this guy. You think he's working for himself? He looks content with his hard work, but maybe he's ready to move on. And even when you put this on with the well, it's like I realized that what I was doing wasn't working. And now all these treasures that I've been growing are falling down into the well. So I got to dive down and get them. You see what I mean? And it's good. It's good. Like we need this change up period. Discs represent our livelihood, of course, how we get the resources we need. They represent longer periods of time. It's like a harvesty, earthy energy. So what we're doing here is we are taking our power back. We've talked about this in previous reads. This is what discs keep coming up to tell us, that we no longer want to work exclusively for other people or for the good of others. We're recognizing that if we work for what's the utmost good for ourselves, that's actually what's better for others anyway. And so it's time. We know now that it's time to speak up, communicate, and refuse to be exploited. We're not going to let hard work go unrewarded and unrecognized or be taken advantage of. We're going to acknowledge the value of our ideas and our creations, and we're going to get real about that and like actually value ourselves. And this will lead to an improvement in our material situation. We will stop feeling so much doubt and confusion about life. It's time. It's like, are we going to be healing or are we going to be healed? And of course, it's always a spiral path. And that's what the well is about. Like when you realize you get a little off, then go back, dive in, find the source, drink deep, waters of life. But really good moment here to think about 7 of discs and our work situation or our livelihood, and let go of any feelings of failure or self-doubt about that. Like, even though maybe you need to move away from what you're doing, learn that or recognize that what was hard about the bad situation before or whatever, we're grateful from it because we learned from the past. All right. Even the upsets. It's like, this is good. Like we're here for a whole new experience, and we had to go through that hard work. We had to work for other people before we recognize the value of just working for us. And like I said, just working for you is not selfish. It is how the whole fractal will get fixed, because you will set the tone for everyone else to also work for themselves. And then it's a bunch of people with a full cup or a full coin purse, if you will, ready to share with each other, instead of everyone needing someone else's coins all the time. So embrace it. Like, we're not emotionally blocked anymore, which means you need to express the emotions or you're just going to be blocked again. We'll talk about that with Dolphin too. Dolphin's got something to say about that. Let ourselves feel renewed, fresh, eager, vigorous. Seven of Discs is telling you that if you don't feel this renewal energy, or like the rest of these cards are telling you that if you don't feel the renewal right now, and maybe you were, but like you fell off because of that 10-4 inversion that we had, then get into what renews you. Get into the waters of life. Finish up your old projects. They will conclude easily if you keep your energy high. You won't feel stuck in them. You're not going to be in a poverty consciousness mindset anymore. Give yourself some slack instead of feeling like you're lacking, right? And that's it, man. We're done working for useless shit. We're done working for callous people. It's time to do what we're here to do. And now, the Dolphin. couldn't be more couldn't be more aligned with the well, right? Like, what's the Dolphin do? Do I need to even tell you how that connects? But I will. I've had plenty to say about this. I love today's read, by the way. And I love what I'm seeing in the chat too. I just can't break this flow. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being in here. I love the build. I love how more of us are connecting with these in the morning. And yeah, I'll just continue on to Dolphin though. You guys rock. So in the book, this amazing medicine cards book that I've got, it's so old, the spine's breaking and everything, but it's super lit. There's a poem for every animal in there, short poem. And I don't always read them, but this one's good. It goes, Dolphin, Dolphin, breathe with me, breath of the divine, manna of the universe, in oneness we entwine. So let's talk about it, all right? So Dolphin's about the breath of life. That's what it means by manna. Dolphin represents manna. It's the exact same message as the well, but in different words. The rhythm of breath, okay? This is what connects you to the core of the entire reality fractal. And why is that? It's because the breath is as simple as you can get when it comes to reducing things down to the core of the duality that we live in and experience. And Dolphin has figured out how to get further than that, how to go from 2 to 1. How do you do that? How do you transcend the duality? Using breath, if breath is duality. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. Dolphin teaches you how to release emotions and tensions through the breath. Let's think about this first. Like, this is key, because you're not going to get to the oneness. You're not going to get to the source of the well unless you clear the stuff that's keeping you chained to the shore, right? Or to the surface. So imagine yourself, maybe during your breathing exercises that I'm encouraging you to do, imagine yourself as a dolphin, taking huge breaths, holding and submerging under the water, and then coming up eventually, and you blow the breath out of the blowhole. Like, you see how that's a representation of easing the pressure inside yourself and releasing the pressure? Because that air blasts out a dolphin like a cork on a wine bottle. A wine bottle, like the things that you would be whining about. You're blasting them right out. You got to express Mooncat out of you so that Sundog can be in you, if you know what I mean. So we talked about getting yourself as clear as possible before the deepest dive into the well. Breath work is crucial for that. I recommend like Wim Hof style breath work, or breath of fire, which is kind of the same thing. Or if you know about Sa Lung, that's one that I like to do. Or if you have your own breath work path, those are the ones that I do. So I'm sure I probably need to listen to what I'm about to say for myself. But if you don't have a breathing breath work practice, I'm pretty sure Spirit is using Dolphin as a calling right now to say, hey, you, time to learn and develop such a practice right now. And so consider that, if you will. Now, the mystical meaning of Dolphin is that if we master this diving into the well, then we can take our breath, which is spirit, and penetrate into the deepest mysteries of life, breaking the limits of physical reality and accessing truths from the dream time or the astral space. Now, here we go. Here's how I'm going to explain the way that I just saw your comment, Slick. Dolphin blowhole makes me think of the Matrix porthole on the back of the head. Yeah, well, you know how technology is, buddy. It's always a plagiarization of something in nature. And anyway, what we got here with breath and diving deep is that you're starting in the tunis, you're rooting in the tunis, in, out, rhythm, which is the basis of all communication. And then when you hold your breath and you dive, are you in duality anymore? Because you're in stillness, in my opinion. There's no longer in and out. There's no in or out. It's just, it is what it is, right? So one cool thing about the Wim Hof breath work is that if you do that, you can hold your breath for a long time. And I think that's like a little death or a little journey into the beyond, because you're no longer anchored to the duality version of consciousness through the constant in and out. You're no longer running on automatic breathing programs where even if you forget to breathe, it's still going in, out, and you're just in the stillness, the no thingness. You entered the void, and the void is the all. The one is the zero. You've merged, you've blurred the lines between heaven and earth. So I'm super sure about this, that this breath work message is like the real reason you're even here listening to me right now, is you need to hear this, and I need to hear this and express this. So yeah, enter the void. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to actually read a paragraph out of this book because it's so good. That has to do with the entering the void and like, what does that mean for us and why we even have this power? So the story goes that Dolphin came to discover underwater cities in the dream time. This is when he enters the void and dives. And Dolphin was given the gift of the primordial tongue. This new language was the sound language that was brought by Spider from the great Star Nation. Dolphin learned that all communication was pattern and rhythm, and that the new aspect of communication was sound. He carries this original pattern to this day. Dolphin returned to the ocean of the Great Mother, which is our realm, and was very sad until Whale came by and told Dolphin that he could return to be a messenger to the Dreamtime dwellers anytime he felt the rhythm and used the breath. Dolphin was given a new job. He became the carrier of messages of our progress. The Dreamtime dwellers were curious about the children of the earth and wanted us to grow to be at one with Great Spirit. Dolphin was to be the link. So that's you. You're the link. You're the Mercury here. You're the Hermes. You're the divine messenger, and you need to learn how you do it. And if you already know how to do it, then let's do it. I'm calling you to do it. I'm calling me to do it. We need it right now. The 10-4 yesterday was a huge blow. You got to recognize that if you're shining right now, you're also under some big time like plutonic psychic attack, even if you don't recognize it. And you might, like I'm hitting the psychic attack and interference in the dream constantly. So I know that it has to do with energy in me that needs to get grounded out. I'm working on it. You know, it's not like there's they're the bad ones, but the inner and outer do reflect each other. There's some interference right now. Otherwise, we wouldn't have seen on 10-4 the whole big blackout of communication channels. So now, what else was I going to say about this? Probably already said too much. This is probably already too long to even be easily digestible. But, back to shamanic drumming. I really think that maybe experimenting with this type of music during your meditation is good. Just Google that, like shamanic drum and rattle. If one or another track doesn't work for you, try different instruments and see what suits you best. Like do the big Wim Hof or the big breath practice and do it for like 10 minutes maybe, or whatever works to feel like you're in the zone and you're no longer clouded by the hard emotions that might be built up from the wall that we hit with resoluteness yesterday. Man, the cards are so on point. But for me, the on the shamanic journey music, the simple drum, like just doom, 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 just like really basic rhythm with a rattle or a shaker with the drum, really just those two things. less complexity, not more. For me, that's the best. That's what gets me in there. But okay, maybe I should. No, I'm going to stop here. If you want to know more about shamanic journeying, look it up and look into some techniques and how you do the visualizations, because there's something to it. It's not just the music and slipping in, but you need to like intentionally in the imagination realm go there, find the ladder in your mind and climb it, or find the entrance to the well, visualize yourself diving in. It really helps to do the visualization in your mind of the journey if you're trying to get into astral stuff. So that's all I'll say about it. Look into these practices, very helpful. And we will wrap it up now. I'll just give some shout outs to everyone in the chat because there's so many. Carol, Sander, Flight Risk, Gabriel, Bo, or B, Be Real. I think that's what it is. Stephanie. Hope I catch everybody's names here. Crazy Fox, Lehman. Y'all are so beautiful. Thanks for hanging in with this longer read. And over on Rock Fam, we got Bad B, Eric, Who Dat Boy, Kent, False Reality Check. Look at all the good folks in here. All right. Well, you know what? This wouldn't have been such a big build if shit wasn't getting so real. So take that to heart. Like, you're powerful. This is the time. We're upgrading. We're leveling up. We're getting into the waters of life. Dive deep, breathe deep, and enter the void, my friends. I'll catch you guys later.